He takes without recourse. His foes surrender, declare they yield. They kneel before his force. Nothing remains, it's all up in flames.
When I began writing the history of modern Estolia, I was unaware of the challenge that awaited me. I could never have predicted the discoveries I'd make, unraveling the intricate threads that wove into the extraordinary 89th iteration of Estolian leadership. The biggest difficulty, once I had the information gathered in one place, was recognizing how dark and selfish the megalomaniacal actions of some men could be, focusing on their own power and wealth to the detriment of the entire species. Without Darren and the solace his soul provided, I doubt I could have withstood the relentless psychological onslaught of such raw selfishness. Meredith Zakarian, Preface, Second edition of the History of Modern Estolia.
Wyatt looked at the Graciela. It was a moonless night. He took the time to look around the area methodically, slowly, carefully. He would not continue with his commission until he was certain he was unobserved. As a man of few words, Wyatt's employers often underestimated him, unaware of his true intellect. While he meticulously scanned the surroundings, automatically cataloguing every detail in his mind, memories of the conversations between Jenkins and the client lingered. The deference Jenkins showed spoke volumes. It was a clear warning that failure was not an option, lest he find himself floating face down in a swimming pool. His scanning eyes paused, and he waited, attuned to the subtle warning that stirred his senses. When the cause revealed itself, a couple of raccoons tussling over a paper sack, Wyatt resumed his deliberate scan and mental cataloguing. The client, likely oblivious to Wyatt's ability to speak Dutch, had no idea that their conversation about the target, a woman from the east coast of the United States, had been noted and filed away. Though Wyatt was unaware of the reasons behind the client's lethal request, he understood the consequences of failure all too well. The ire of either man was something he had no desire to provoke should he not honor the contract's stipulations. With his slow scan complete, Wyatt moved with confident strides toward the Graciela. A shout of greeting pierced the night, but he pressed on, unfazed. From the corner of his eye, he noticed two men, their speech slurred with drink, calling from one houseboat to another. In under 90 seconds he boarded the boat, making his way down to the inner lounge. He paused there, attuning his senses to the gentle sway of the water beneath. The question lingered. Was the fancy craft empty, or did another presence share the boat with him? Within minutes, Wyatt discerned that no one aboard the boat was awake. Whether any crew lay sleeping was uncertain, but the present calm worked to his advantage. Swiftly, he located the access panel required for his task. As he set to work, the foreigner's words echoed in his mind.
"Thaddeus must pay,"
the man said.
"I wish to see him bleed. Slowly, for decades. I wish him to wonder what might have been."
"Wyatt is my best. He can make a surgical strike with precision,"
Jenkins boasted.
"I wish it to be anything but precise or surgical. I wish it to be messy."
The client was emphatic, sick, demented, and rich. His boss didn't worry about the reasons behind the jobs he curated. The only motivation was the number of zeros involved by the remuneration. The two men discussed what Wyatt would do. He would destroy the Graciela at 2:22 in the afternoon. The ship would sink. The passengers would burn, drown, or be dismembered. Some would live, but not the target. Wyatt was proud of his work. With precision in the near-total darkness, he placed the charge and set the timer.
Thaddeus must pay for every stolen breath. Thaddeus must pay a dance with living death. Thaddeus must pay, his paradise will fall. Thaddeus must pay, he'll lose it all.
George Ann looked around at the wealthy people attending the party. Everyone was beautiful, dressed expensively, making small talk. Her father was speaking with Germain Masterson, talking up his investments. Her attention turned from her father to a dainty woman walking towards her.
My name is Maria.
The beauty stated. Blushing, she glanced towards her father. He was listening.
I'm Georgianne.
She said obediently. He would hate to hear her introducing herself as anything other than Georgianne. She felt as if her identity as a woman was buried beneath her father's need to have a child with his name. She was grateful that her mother was successful in making sure her name was hyphenated. If her father had his way, she would have been named George with a middle name of Anne. She shrugged off thoughts of her name and turned her attention to the woman speaking with her.
Do you have a nickname?
Maria asked her. She shook her head. Someday she might ask to be called something else, but that was decades in the future when her father was no longer a daily part of her life. On her 16th birthday, her mother told her,
You are not your name, Jojo.
her mother's nickname was one she used in private moments when her father was not around.
You are a wonderful, beautiful, engaging young woman. Everyone who sees you thinks you look like an angel. When they hear your name, that doesn't change what they think about you.
What brings you to this party?
Maria asked her. Georgianne gestured to her father.
My father is great friends with Nathaniel and Thaddeus. Thaddeus couldn't make it, but invited us to come to his party.
You know Thaddeus?
Maria asked, a jealous tone in her voice.
He's quite nice.
Georgianne said. The eccentric entrepreneur was one of the nicest people she had ever met.
What brings you here?
She asked the beautiful woman. For the next half hour, Georgianne had a pleasant conversation with Maria. She learned that Maria and Thaddeus had just become engaged, though they were waiting to announce it publicly.
I love.
Maria began to speak, but then she turned with a frown and glanced over towards where Georgianne's father was seated.
Oh no,
she whispered. A moment after that, she leaped towards Georgianne, knocking her backwards off her feet. Then the entire universe shifted, and agony was slicing through her face and arm as she hurtled through the air, and the world itself disintegrated into chaos. The engine housing directly behind Maria erupted in a frothing torrent of water and flames. Everything seemed to move in slow motion as she flew through the air and landed with a wrench in the water. Stunned, she could not breathe. And then someone was pulling her to the surface of the water and holding her up. From that position, she watched as the boat started to burn and then slowly sank. Her awareness sank with it, and she believed that her own life was going to be measured in the minutes and seconds remaining to the charred wreckage that was submerging in front of her.
He doesn't know her fragile grace conceals my dark disguise. I watch them walking hand in hand beneath the summer sky, and know the perfect instrument with which his dreams will die.
Bethany heard a dull crack followed by a blast of heat. Everything seemed to change, go in slow motion. She swiveled to look behind her, seeing that the houseboat was on fire, exploding. She saw several individuals flying through the air, and it was only as she focused in on one woman flying towards her that she realized that she herself was airborne. When she hit the water, she was full of remorse that she never got the chance to share her feelings with Gregory. She was going to die, and he would never know how special he was to her. When she pulled herself to the surface of the water, she realized that only moments had passed. The houseboat was still actively exploding and rapidly sinking. Her attention turned from the destroyed vessel and focused on the silver-blonde hair of the woman who surfaced near her. Bethany kicked closer, hesitating only a moment when she saw the white of bone swathed in red that was one side of her face. She supported the injured woman's body against her own. Screams, sobs, and the sound of flames being extinguished by the lake water all assaulted her ears. She and the woman she was supporting were not the only ones alive. A few moments later, she saw several other boats in the vicinity were approaching.
Thaddeus must pay for every stolen breath. Thaddeus must pay a dance with living death. Thaddeus must pay